Hi.
Have you done a podcast before?
I have.
I feel like you would.
I've done I think I've done 3.
I think you
But never actually filmed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Audio only.
Audio only.
So you could be in your pajamas.
I could. Yeah. This time, this morning I was like, oh, I have to get dressed today.
Yeah.
I have to wear makeup.
I mean, you could have come in your pajamas.
I thought about it.
But
I considered it.
You look great.
Thank you. As do you.
Thanks for coming on camera.
My pleasure.
Chatting with us. I was going to say, have you done this before? You've obviously done this before, and you've done a lot before. So I'm really excited to chat with you because you have a serious background in both, television, event planning, wedding planning, new ventures that you're starting called the Pop-Up Chapel, which we'll get into. So before we get started, I'll do an intro so everybody, because we are video and audio. And so for everyone who is listening and or watching, we are sitting with Lynzie Kent of Love by Lynzie. Say hello to everybody who's watching.
Hello. I shouldn't look at the camera. That's video 101.
I know, I always say in video, I'm like, don't look at me.
Yeah,
I'm
not here.
Yeah. Thanks for taking time to come in.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, you have a lot of stuff going on. And the question is, where do we even begin? So let's give a little bit of the audience a bit of background about you. I believe you started in wedding planning, so let's kind of talk
from there.
Yeah,
begin at the beginning.
Let's start at the beginning.
Sure. So I actually didn't start in wedding planning.
Okay.
I started in entertainment. So growing up, my parents had a band, and they did weddings and corporate events and bars and clubs. And my mom wanted to retire. She didn't want to sing lead in the band anymore. And this is my favorite story of how my career began because it's so me. So in grade 10, I lent my high school boyfriend my parents' car. He crashed it into a snowbank. And as my punishment for this, my dad forced me to sing lead in their band for an entire summer without pay to pay off the car being fixed. And my mom was like, she didn't want to sing in the band anymore. And for me, I was like, cool, this is like an awesome punishment. But that started my career in entertainment. And from there, I was doing, resorts and corporate events and weddings. And I was subbing into other bands. And that was like my first foray into the event world. And, I was a teenager at that time. And then growing into adulthood, I started working for other entertainment companies. As I would gain seniority in those companies, I would manage the contracts on site at the events, and that sort of organically grew into this like event coordination piece, which eventually grew into this wedding coordination piece. So weddings was... Yeah, it was later, much later.
It was never necessarily the route.
No.
It's where you ended up.
It's where I ended up, yeah.
That is a very interesting story because I always like those stories that are like, what's the one event or the one moment that kind of pivoted you in a certain way, and that's it.
Up until that point, I was really just doing entertainment and music. I was doing a lot of music. My band was already together. But when I got married, then I was like, ooh, this is creative and fun. So that was kind of the pivoting moment for, can I transfer these skills into the wedding industry?
What was the creativity when you were growing up that you were most interested in?
Music.
Yeah,
music.
Okay.
Singing, dancing. I came from an extremely musical family, and for a long time before I was ever self-employed, I was pursuing original music, and I released a couple records, and that was really my focus for a long time.
Wow.
What's funny, like the same year that I got married, I released my second record, and I really fell out of love with the music industry. I loved writing songs, I loved singing and being on stage, but I just hated the industry, and I knew I didn't really love it enough to compete with these people who were like cutthroat and really loved being in that industry. So I made a really conscious decision to end that dream or goal in my life and move on to something else. And weddings and events were just kind of sitting there going, you're good at me and you could maybe do this. And I just kind of dove in.
Wow. So then what was, after you started doing the organization for some of the events, what happened after that? Like, how did it kind of...
Well, first, I had to make a living. So I got a job at a bridal store in Port Credit. And I was really fortunate to work with an amazing boss there named Patricia, and she was kind of like my mentor, and she didn't know it. And I just was like watching what she was doing and trying to learn from her. And when I finally had enough clients to go out on my own, I think what I didn't anticipate was like how quickly it could grow if you were strong at marketing yourself. So for me, it was just, managing like this band that I had going on and all of the contracts that we had with that, and then this growing event and wedding planning business, and figuring out how to be in two places at once. And so as a new business owner, that was sort of my first struggle. And figuring out how to split my time and which contracts were valuable to me and which I had to let go of, and then also make a decision pretty quickly about whether or not I wanted to scale a team or whether or not I wanted to continue to be a one woman show.
Right. So when did that all start? Like what year?
That was probably 2012.
Okay.
That I really started taking it seriously. I was finally able to quit my job in 2013. And I made my first hire in 2014. And
was that like a full-time hire that you had come on?
No, I started part-time.
Yeah.
I've always been pretty risk averse, and scared of just, every entrepreneur or self-employed person has like that disease where you're like, everything could be taken from me in any moment. So I started part-time, and actually I went out for drinks with her the other night for the first time in a long time. And we were laughing about how when she started with me, we were literally in like this room in my house, and every day she'd come in and I would just give her like this like crappy little piece of paper that said, today I need you to do the following things. Like there was no job processes. There was no job description. It was just like, help me,
And so you guys got along really well, obviously.
Oh yeah. She was with me until 2018.
Okay.
So 4 years together.
Wow.
Yeah. I love her so much mutual respect there. And she was instrumental in helping me to build my business. Her name's Carly. She works still in the industry. She's a venue manager at Easy on the Fifth.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, the amount of work and fun that we did and had together was amazing.
So when, like, she was your first one, and then when did the second one come on?
Probably each year I took on another.
Right.
Each year. And it sort of changed in what capacity. And I would say in the last 2 years, my team has sort of grown by 2 per year since then. Each year I thought to myself, how will I continue to scale Love by Lynzie and continue to do these weddings and events in a way that still provides like this excellent quality of care to our clients and has my creative brain behind it. But also at the same time, excuse me for losing my train of thought, how do we also like nurture and care for Electric Blonde and this budding business over here that's also growing and progressing at the same time? And for me, the answer truly was, I had to develop a very clear process that was owned by us and that was something that I could teach and manage from a high level, and B, start to replace myself in the events, because it wasn't me that made the events successful per se. It was the process that I developed over the years, and it was the attention to detail that I could teach these really knowledgeable staff members how to also execute. And so that was really the answer, because at the time I couldn't replace myself in the band. I couldn't do that, and I also couldn't work 22-hour long days. I was doing that for a while, and it wasn't sustainable. So yeah, it was just each year, add one, get more clients, add another.
Right. So what kind of processes were you putting in place to like help the girls really navigate through a wedding without you?
Yeah, so I think I didn't even know at the time that they were called processes, but for me, it was just like literally follow this step-by-step guide and answer all of these questions. And if you thoughtfully and mindfully answer these questions, you're going to set yourself up for success. And a lot of planners would agree with me that they have their own exact version of that, right? Like that's why we're called planners, because we're looking ahead to what could and may happen and thinking about, if that did happen, what would I do? And knock wood, which like everything in here is so sleek.
There might not be anyone
There's
here.
no wood in here. We've been safe thus far by just continuing to use that process. And also, I come back to that all the time, right? And I think, holy smokes, look at this weird situation that happened that we were able to solve. But this was missed in our process. So how can we use this to learn for the future? And maybe there's a question in there somewhere that we should be asking that we're not asking. And what is that?
I feel like that is a majority of what happens is like you guys see something new every event.
All the time.
You really can't plan. Like you can plan, of course, but you can't plan for the unknown. And
You
there
can't.
always is going to be some kind of element of unknown. But as long as you're tracking that, keeping that so that for future you know how to handle those situations.
I think it's a muscle that you're flexing, right? Like it's all about critical thinking, and the more you're doing it, the more you're able to think critically on your feet, right? Like whether it's an actual problem like flowers didn't show up or AV's not working, or whether it's an emotional problem like, somebody in the family is having a hard time or there's a strained relationship. It's all just about critical thinking and understanding that we're all working toward the same goal, and then using that muscle every time you can.
Do you have a critical situation that you could
I'll share.
I'd love to hear.
I think this is a funny one because it's really recent. So we just did a pop-up chapel in September, and there was a straight up miscommunication between our staff and one of our florists, and 3 bouquets and 3 boutonnieres just did not arrive. And we were just like, what in the hell? Because literally we didn't realize until about an hour before that first couple arrived, and we were like, well, we got to sort this out. And for me, like, it's so much more about, we have an immediate problem that needs to be solved, and what can we do to solve this, and who can we lean on, rather than going, what happened? Because in that moment, I really don't care what happened. I don't care whose fault it was. And a lot of the times it's no one's fault. It's like an honest mistake, and people are all moving too fast and working too fast and working too hard. And things just get missed. It's normal. It's human nature. So my thought process is always, what is the problem? We have no flowers for 3 couples. How can we solve this immediately? Here are the closest florists on Google Maps. What is this going to cost? My first thought is always, can I throw money at the problem? If I can throw money at the problem, that's the easiest answer. Can I not throw money at the problem? Who can I lean on that I know, right? Like, this is sort of how my brain works. And I think my team has sort of adapted these initial questions as well through osmosis, and also through training with me, to immediately just go identify the problem quickly, figure out what your top 3 options are, and fix it. Another time we had a cake not show up, and the poor cake designer was in like a really bad car accident on the way to the wedding. And it wasn't just one cake, it was individual cakes for everybody at the entire wedding as the favors. And it's just like, in that moment, it's like, well, we need a cake for cutting, and we need sweets to put in people's faces when they're hungry for some sugar, right? And how can we solve that immediately?
Right. And again, the similar steps.
Same steps. It's just identify the problem and figure out, can you throw money at it? Can you lean on somebody in the industry? And if you can't do either of those things, the bottom line is sometimes there are problems that can't be solved. I don't feel that in any of our events we've ever run into that yet. Because most of the time you can throw money at something.
And somebody's around in Toronto.
Yeah.
That's close by.
And someone will help you because like people are innately good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to I also, often say to people, if something goes wrong, you're still having a party. You're still getting married that day. You're still throwing an event.
You know what I find really interesting about that too is that you identify the problem, but you're not focused on the blame of why the problem.
There's nothing you can do. You can talk about that later.
Yeah, like you can look back and sit there and stew about why this even happened and play the blame game, but it's not going to get you any further because you've got to solve this problem within a short time frame. Totally. And then obviously, you can, go to the drawing board after and say, okay, why did this happen? Yeah. But when you focus on the blame, it's not going to get you anywhere.
I think it just puts negative energy into the room when you all know that you're just working together. Yeah. But also, that when you're in that situation, there's like high emotions, there's high stress. So playing the blame game you're going to say something or do something that you're going to regret. And I think that there's a real opportunity for learning later on when you can look back and go, hey, what happened? Who made the mistake here? And if someone did and it wasn't us, great. But what if it is us? And how do we learn from that? And we're human too.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the pop-up chapel because we've obviously briefed on it, but like fill us in. What's going on? What are you up to?
So the pop-up chapel is, in short, a shared wedding concept, and I refer to it as like the Uber or the Airbnb of the wedding industry.
Okay.
We marry 10 couples in one day, one couple on the hour, every hour for 10 hours.
Wow.
And the reason that I created pop-up chapel was because I felt that there was this white space in the industry between, eloping to City Hall for this inexpensive, sort of very simple wedding to these really elaborate, over-the-top events that cost people literally the down payment of a house. And for me, I guess since becoming a mom, I care a lot more about sustainability and inclusivity and making sure that people have options to celebrate beautifully, but that are within their means. So I knew that there was like an answer there. And what we've done is we essentially create a wedding in a space that's beautifully designed and filled with a lot of fun stuff for people that 10 couples use. So 10 couples are using the same decor, the same rentals, the same vendors. And it's a space where everyone feels welcome and it's very intimate and inclusive. And honestly, it's just such good vibes all around. Like I feel like when I'm at a chapel, everyone's just stoked to be there. There's this whole charitable component to it too. $300 from the sale of every spot goes to the charity that we pair with for that day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So in our industry, I don't know if you find this, but I find that there's not a lot of opportunity to give back, like using the talents that you have. So that was another really big thing for me. Like how do we do something together as a group, as an industry, to really make a difference in our community in what can sometimes be a superficial industry?
I love that. What's the response been so far?
On Friday this week, we are doing our 10th chapel. By the end of this year, we'll have married 80 couples in the chapel. We'll have raised over $33,000 for local charities.
Oh my goodness.
And we've got a wait list of over 120 couples for 2020 and beyond.
Well done.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's super
And when did
exciting.
you launch?
The first chapel that we did was in August of 2017.
Okay.
We did one that year. In 2017, we did 4. In 2018, we did 6, one of which was 2 days. We married 20 couples. And then next year, we've got 6 booked, and almost 5 of them are almost sold out.
So is it the same chapel every time?
No.
No, it's pop-up. That's the whole concept.
Every time it
So
looks different. People. So when our couples book, they have no idea what it's going to look like. That's part of the fun and the spontaneity of it. So every chapel is designed totally differently. We work in different venues all over the city. So far, we've been working at Drake Properties and Evergreen Brickworks. And next year, we're going to be at Globe and Mail. We're going to be at the Loft at Barrow, I should say. We will be at Brickworks again. So we're expanding. We're going to Vancouver next year.
Wow.
And my dream and goal is to take it across North America.
Well, congratulations, because I think that's
Thank
a big
you.
feat to take on, and also doing good for the community and for charities and giving back. And
it's just different too, right? It's just like how can we evolve the wedding planning industry? Like what can we do differently? And part of the reason that I think it's connecting with people is because millennials and like Gen Zers, people who are getting married now or considering to get married now, they have different set of priorities when it comes to spending their money.
Run me through the details of the pop-up. So if I'm going to be a bride and I'm going to go to the chapel,
Sure.
What's the cost? And then is it 1 hour in and then everyone leaves and goes to their own backyard party, right?
Yeah, it really depends on what the individual wants to do, but so it's essentially it's $24.99, so it's $2,500, and you get everything you need for a wedding. You get your officiant, your flowers, live music, a toast. You get the venue, you get your planner, I know I'm missing stuff. You get your photographer, you get a photo session after.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you get really everything you need. And essentially, it is 1 hour in the space. Ceremonies usually last around 15 to 20 minutes. And then the rest of the time is a mini cocktail hour. And one of the things that's super, super important to us is that we've developed a way to do it where our couples don't have to run into each other. So they have their own path through the chapel experience, and it remains intimately theirs. They're whisked away by their photographers at the end, and then their friends and family move on to whatever they've planned next. And for some people, that's a brunch at a restaurant. And for some people, it's a big party. We've had a few people literally do a full wedding afterward. But that's really up to them.
I love that. I love the idea that they're not seeing other brides come in.
Yeah.
You know?
Because that kind of takes a bit of the magic away.
Right.
Doesn't it? You know when you're in like a banquet hall and like two brides have to use the same bathroom and you're like, oh, congratulations. Oh, you too. Like it's
right. It doesn't feel as private
No.
because someone else is doing the same thing.
Somebody else is in a white dress. I mean, that happens at weddings too,
Yeah.
but we won't talk about those people.
So tell me about television, Crazy Beautiful Weddings. What is going on with the TV aspect of your life, and how did you start that? How did that all begin? Because it's been a few years now, right?
Yeah. So Crazy Beautiful Weddings finished filming season 2. And for now, I think that's all we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to do another season. Getting into TV was sort of serendipitous. I guess because I have a background in performing and being in front of people, it was a natural progression into it, but essentially through Instagram. So the first show I did was called Post My Party. And it was like this little fun show about DIY parties in people's homes. And I was the host. And the production company found me through Instagram. And they were like, hey, we think that you could be a good host for this show. And we have an opening. Do you want to come and chat with us and see if it would be something fun? And I literally was pregnant at the time, I think. Or no, I just had a baby. Literally, baby came out, went to the meeting. No.
Hospital room.
Yeah. Hey there. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. I'm having contractions. No. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, but this is a great opportunity and I just want to take it and I want to try it and see if it's something I like and would be good at. And they gave me the opportunity and we did 13 episodes, I think. And it was super fun. We didn't get a second season of that, but then they said, we like you as a host and we'd like to see if we can develop an idea around your business and what you actually do. And that's how Crazy Beautiful Weddings was born. And so we did 2 seasons of that, 10 episodes per season, and they are actual real clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. So they must be your real clients and you're documenting the process of you guys.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
the journey, right?
Yeah, and it was really fun to, approach our clients and be like, look, we have this opportunity. Would you like to do it? And some people were like, no,
Right.
never. And other people, some of whom surprised us, were like, yes, let's do it.
Really?
Yeah.
So the feedback was good for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The feedback was great. And what I think was really cool about it is that it allowed me to connect with a lot of new people in the industry because it opened up our budgets a little bit for some stuff. And also new people through social media. Like people all over the world really have been following along with what we do, and it's cool. I'm like chatting to people in India. I'm chatting to people in Poland,
Really?
Yeah, it's neat. It's really neat.
Which channel was it on?
In Canada, it was on Makeful.
Makeful.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it got picked up internationally, which is really cool.
So you're at 2 seasons, still
2
tutoring-
seasons.
potentially a third, or you're
I don't
thinking
think so.
no?
I think
Okay.
no. I'm really like invested in the direction of Pop-Up Chapel right
Yeah,
now.
that's kind of like one of the focus. So how many events are you taking on with Love by Lynzie, and how many?
So Love by Lynzie is in a really healthy place right now. We've got an excellent staff of planners, and I'm still involved very much in the day-to-day of that business. So really, I'm happy to let that grow and continue to grow as best I can. So no really limit there. Pop-Up Chapel, we are ideally growing Canada-wide by next year. So probably 6 to 8 locally and then another 4 in other locations, either in Canada or in North America elsewhere.
Brilliant. And then what about the band?
The band is great too. Not as large a part of my business as the other 2. And so I would say that we were doing anywhere from 25 to 35 events a year. But I don't sing lead for all of them anymore.
Right. So you get to choose kind of when you feel like going out to sing.
Yeah. Or, if I really connect with a client, it's somebody I know personally through the industry, or maybe Love by Lindsay's doing their wedding as well, or whatever. There's 3 singers right now, and honestly, they're all great.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it doesn't really matter if it's me or someone else.
Do you get that? So sometimes, because I obviously film and edit, and sometimes after like being away from the editing portion of it, I get this like, oh, I want to do it again, because it's a passion for me. It's super fun for me to do that and put together these stories. But do you find once in a while that you're like, I want to go out and sing? Like you want to, it's like if you're a dancer or if you're a singer, you want to do that. And so you take a break, but then you want to go out and...
Totally. What I think is interesting about Electric Blonde is that for me, it's, from a business perspective, it's really not about the money or about like the work. It's about singing, and it's about playing music with my friends on stage. Like the guys in my band I've known for years. It's like my social life in a great but sad way. So for me, it's really just about like getting out there and like flexing a muscle that I've always flexed, and it's kind of like an outlet, right?
Exactly.
You feel the same way about editing?
Well, I mean, I have other outlets because I'm also like, I love sports and like these kind of things.
Yeah.
But if I haven't been editing in a while, then I feel the need to
do it.
That's my outlet for storytelling.
Yeah.
That's like what I'm about. Like I love creating that. So that's what I need to do after a while. Like,
I feel like for me, it's like stress relieving.
Yeah.
For like singing. Like I'm literally dancing and singing on stage, and there's nothing bad about that.
Yeah, I love dancing.
Yeah, it's
that's
the
a
best.
good stress relief. And boxing. I'm really into boxing now. Just hitting a bag.
I tried to do boxing once, and I was so bad at it. Honestly, I came home that day, and I said to my husband and my mother-in-law, I was like, oh, that's not for me. Like,
it's not doing it.
It was so embarrassing.
But it's honestly, you have to give yourself more than one try. Because the first time I did it, my arms were just like flailing.
Yeah, I just felt so silly.
Yeah, and then once you start to look at technique, and then it starts to come to you, but it takes time.
In these moments, like when your gloves are up, I would imagine you feel quite powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the whole idea is you don't want anyone to hit you. So you've got this fighter stance on and you're tense.
Right.
And like that's the feeling.
Yeah.
But it's a great stress relief. Absolutely. For me, personally.
I think like, especially since having kids, I feel like I need more and more stress relief in my life. So singing has been a great outlet, but yeah, I could stand to find a couple more. I've been working out a lot since my second baby, and working out in a way I'd never done before, like lifting weights, and like literally I come home and I'm like, Andrew, today I deadlifted this much. He's like, who are you? But that's really stress relieving too.
Talking like the true gym goer.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I can bench press this much.
I've never said that in my life, but literally I'm stoked about it.
Yeah. So you have 2 children.
I do.
And I know that you kind of took a break because obviously you have a lot happening that we're hearing about, but you kind of...
I know, it sounds bad, doesn't it? When I say it all, I'm like,
no, it's not
I'm
bad.
not a crazy person.
It's amazing. I find it very inspiring. But you needed some time, or you wanted to be with your family, so you went to Australia.
Yeah.
So what kind of prompted... When was that? And what prompted you to want to...
So that was January to June of this year.
Mm-hmm. Where in Australia?
Perth.
Oh.
My husband is Australian, so we lived with family, and it was the best ever. What prompted it? So Archie is my eldest son, and he is 4. And when he was born, like I said, I didn't take a mat leave. I literally was on stage 2 weeks after he was born, and then like a month after he was born, I was filming a TV show. And as amazing as that experience was, this was not a good time in my life. Like I was stressed, I was unhealthy, I was working too much, I had a brand new baby, and I definitely had postpartum anxiety. And I just knew it took me a long time to get out of that place. And I just knew that I wanted to have a second baby, but that I had to do it differently next time for like my own sanity and my own health. So when I found out I was pregnant with Lewis, I did a ton of work to just make sure that I could get my business to a place where it could be sustained without me, so that I could take a mat leave. And honestly, for so many reasons, I'm so glad that I chose that. The main one being having that 6 months of uninterrupted time with my family, literally on the beach every other day. Like, I'll never get that back. And it was like the best experience of my life. But aside from that, I think it really showed me that, I have some incredibly talented people on my team, and that we can do a lot more. Like, by thinking that the business needed me all the time, I was limiting us. And it's shown me that, by putting those processes in place and putting that effort into building the business side of the business, we can do a lot more. We can continue to grow, and it's given me a new passion for growing business.
New perspective.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you remove yourself and you just go into like a stillness because nobody was really bothering you. And the time difference is like, what, 2 days?
Hours. Yeah. Everybody always jokes with me and they're like, of course you had to go to Australia to like take a mat leave. I'm like, yeah. And I'm proud of that 13-hour boundary because I didn't talk to people.
Yeah. Like your emails, I'll get back to you
when I want to. Yeah, it was great.
Noon my time. I think it's super important to kind of get that perspective and know that you can grow your business without you to a certain extent, but you worked really hard to get it to that point. Like you said, you knew you were going to have a second child, and so you had to work.
Had I just left without doing that work, it wouldn't have been okay, right? Like, everybody needed to own certain parts of the work in a way that they weren't owning at that time. Not their fault, not my fault. We just were doing what we thought we needed to do. But there were ways that we could restructure things, and we did. And since then, it's become a really cool work environment where everybody has like a lot of autonomy, and we're all growing toward, a goal as a group, but also individual goals. And I also think it's taught me a lot about like self-care, and like probably I shove self-care down the throats of my staff all the time. And they're probably like, yes, we get it. We need to get sleep. But like, it taught me a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of, staying on like self-care, what kind of like time management, do you have anything in place for yourself?
I only work 4 days a week, aside from events. So I don't work on Mondays, and that's just non-negotiable for me. Wednesdays, everybody on my team works remotely. That could mean whatever they want for them. It's my day to go to appointments, and I see a therapist once a month, and I highly recommend that people do that even when things are bad. Especially when things are bad, but even when things are good. Yeah. And in terms of time management, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, my life is hectic. But weekends, when we don't have events, it's very much just like about my family and about real life, because life is not just all work. I have screen time limits on my phone, but like I press ignore that shit all the time.
Weekend.
Yeah. I tried that, but when I'm home after work on weekdays, I do try to be with my kids up until bedtime.
Right.
And be present in that moment. But in terms of time management, I don't know.
So you're taking Wednesdays for meetings. Like, do you specifically take one day that just you do meetings just that day?
No, I do meetings all the time.
Whenever, yeah.
But Wednesdays are like my kind of day where everybody's, working from home and doing their remote stuff. And for me, that's a day where like, yes, I get a lot of work done, but I also go to therapy on Wednesdays. If I want to book a massage, that's on a Wednesday. Like, it's kind of this weird flex day that I use to just get things done that I need to also get done. Okay. Not just work stuff.
That's important.
Tuesday is like, I go into work and it's like, you can have me, staff, and we just talk all day long,
Plus you're coming back from the weekend.
Yeah. That's like debrief day, team meeting day. Thursdays are like event planning day. And then Fridays are anything. Anything. Prep.
Potentially. When do pop-ups happen, on Saturdays or Sundays? Oh, Fridays.
Only Fridays.
Fridays only.
No weekends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's important because of the charitable aspect. A lot of people are either giving their time and energy or working on, occasionally working on discounted rates and that kind of thing. And it has to make sense for everybody.
Right. If you're choosing a weekend.
No way I'm going to do it on a Saturday and not respect that people could be earning a ton of money that day. Right.
Fair. Well, I love it. I think that's great. So
you should come do a chapel.
I should come do a chapel. Advice. So a couple tidbits of advice, although you've dropped quite a bit. But
my perspective on weddings is that, yeah, this is like a super important day in your life. It is so important. And I too was once a bride that was like freaking out. And my sister-in-law, said something to me on the morning of my wedding, and she said, like, doesn't matter, Linz, because you're getting married today either way. And I always say that to my couples. Doesn't matter what happens because you're getting married that day either way. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, what do you want to remember? Do you want to remember that you cared about the fact that it rained and your tent was bowing in like the corner? Mm-hmm. Or do you want to remember that you were getting married that day and it was the beginning of your marriage? So in a world that's constantly telling us like what we should have and what things should look like and what we need in order for it to be great, the only thing you need in order for it to be great is to be marrying the person that you want to marry and to be just having the best time of your life because of that. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing you need for it to be great. Mm-hmm. So I think that if we maintain that perspective, the wedding planning process is a fun thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the stressful, crazy.
No.
Just leave it at the door.
It doesn't even have to be very serious. Like, you get to have fun with this. This is the one party. This is your, like, one opportunity in your entire life to throw the party of your dreams. Let's remember it's a party. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a ceremony too, which is the serious moment. But let's remember why we're throwing this event and keep that into perspective all the time. Mm-hmm. Because this party is going to be fun and this day is going to be remembered. But what's most important is that you're starting the foundation of something really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's a business piece of advice for anyone who's like, you know what, I'm going to start a planning business or jump into the wedding industry?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my advice is kind of the same. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately, like, whatever you know what I would say? I would say two things. Don't name your company after yourself.
Okay. This is a question that I seriously ask.
My staff is going to laugh. But I can't tell you how many times people have said, well, the problem is that you named it your name. And I'm like, yeah, I'm aware. But let's like move on from that. Because it's hard. It's hard to scale a business when, you know, your face is on it. I wonder what Rachel will say about that. Ask Rachel about that.
I will ask Rachel about that. There's been a lot of people.
I wonder what Shaylin would say about that. Did you guys talk about that with Shaylin?
We didn't talk about that, actually.
I wonder what she would say about that.
I mentioned it with Rebecca Chan.
Yeah, I wonder what Rebecca says about that.
So she said that moving forward, she doesn't know that she would have done that because it makes it hard.
Yeah.
Especially if, like, say 20 years from now you want to sell.
Totally.
But, like, there's pros and cons always. But at the same time, she's been able to scale a team, and same with yourself.
Yeah.
With your name. It just takes building more trust with your audience that it doesn't have to be you.
You just have to be strategic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't have like one piece of advice, but I'll just do like little tidbits. Okay. So one, really consider about it if you want to name your company after your name.
Okay.
And if that aligns with your future goals. Two, don't be afraid to pivot. Like, there's nothing wrong with being like a multi-passionate creative entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And I've done so many different things and I do so many different things. And I think that adds to the richness of my business. And I think often people are afraid of what they'll lose if they pivot. And I think, you know, when you are really frank with yourself about your future goals and when things aren't working, don't be afraid to put the work into it and change what you're doing, because I really believe that that's when the growth happens. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing I'll say is, you know, listen to other people to an extent. It's your business and you get to decide what you want to do with it. And There's going to be a lot of people out there that say like, you should do this, and business should act like this. And there is no blueprint, one size fits all for every business. And I think that you should do whatever the hell you want to do.
And you can't, if that person isn't running that same business, how do they know what you should be doing?
Yeah. There's no answer for everybody in anything. I think what you should do is think about what feels right for you and your future goals. And if making whatever decision you're mulling over right now contributes to that end picture, while also remembering that that end picture will change every month, right? You just got to really trust yourself and believe in
what you're doing.
Yeah.
And be strategic. Even if you are going to pivot. So I'm doing a film business, I'm not pivoting into podcasting. And I think if you want to make the jump and completely leave one business and go to the other, just do it strategically. That's all.
Yeah.
Just don't be silly about it and think that.
Don't be reckless.
Yeah. Don't be reckless.
100%.
And think that just because you have a passion
But don't be
for something
scared
else,
of it.
And don't be scared. Yeah. Give it a chance.
Give it a shot.
Pivot away.
We could just say so many cliche quotes right now. What is your advice for business? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Hashtag Wayne Gretzky.
Love that guy.
Okay, so this has been just a pleasure sitting with you.
Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
I really appreciate you taking time to come in with all of the things you got going on, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
I would love to come back.
Since you have a gold mic in front of you, do you want to sing an outro?
Should I?
For the VIP Collective? I think you should.
No, I can't even come up with something then.
I'll give it to you if you sing it.
You'll give me the gold mic?
No.
What do you mean you'll give me?
You can't have that.
Okay. Shit.
Although it is pretty.
What? Am I supposed to ask the audience a question now? Should I do that now?
Oh, yeah. Changing the subject.
Now I'm blushing, and
Yes.
you can see because you have real cameras.
Ask the audience a question.
Okay, my question for the audience, and it doesn't matter if it's industry or brides, is I would like to know what the audience thinks is the future of the wedding industry. I'd like to know how they think the wedding industry could step up to the subject of sustainability, inclusivity, and inclusion from a financial perspective. Or if they think the future of the wedding industry is going to look wildly different. I'm just interested to hear people's perspectives.
Where are we headed? Tara McMullen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was a guest, and we chatted briefly about this towards the
That's
end of the
my homegirl.
episode. Yeah. And we chatted briefly, and I said to her, weddings are going to be this thing where eventually it's going to be VR. We're talking 50 years.
Where you just put
And
on...
you'll sit on your couch, and you'll watch the wedding of Ben and Jenny. And you won't
wild.
physically go.
My husband and I have this conversation all the time of in the future, is it going to be Total Recall where you need a vacation, so you put on a VR thing and then they implant the memory in your head that you went to Mexico, but you didn't actually go to Mexico?
Is it?
I don't know if that's the future of weddings.
I don't know if future, but are you watching Black Mirror?
No,
Have you
I
dabbled
can't
in
watch
any
that
of
show.
this?
I watched 4 episodes and I felt so uncomfortable
Yeah.
that I can't watch anymore.
Yeah, I also watched 4 episodes, and that was it for me. I was like, I'm done with this.
That episode where she ends up with the dude that's a robot and they recreated him from his social media.
No, I didn't see that one.
Oh, that one I was like, ugh. Yeah, I just...
No, I saw the chip with the memory where you could rewind and rewatch what happened.
Yep, I saw that one too.
It's a video camera through your eyes. Freaky.
Yeah, freaky.
Anyways, I hope it doesn't get there.
I don't think that's the future of weddings, but I'd just like to hear people's perspectives
VR,
because it
you
has
never
to
know.
change with everything else that's changing in the world.
It's true. Well, interested to find out.
This
So-
has been the VIP Collective. Okay, that's all
She
you're
did
gonna
it.
get. I didn't. I knew you really wanted me to do it, so I just did it.
Amazing. Well, thanks for coming in, and let's cheers it out.
Cheers.
Come back anytime, my dear.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for having me.